इतना कुछ डरावना नहीं है, लेकिन क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट बहुत प्रोटेक्टिव है, इजरायली गवर्नमेंट भी बहुत सपोर्टिव है, तो ऐसा नहीं है। इतना कुछ सेफ रखती है वो अपने देशवासियों के लिए भी उतना ही प्रोटेक्टिव है। बाहर वालों के लिए
आने में कितनी मशक्कत का सामना करना पड़ा?
कुछ नहीं करना पड़ा, गवर्नमेंट बहुत सपोर्टिव है।
गवर्नमेंट को क्या बोलना चाहोगे?
थैंक यू बोलना चाहूंगी बहुत ज्यादा कि वो मुझे यहाँ पे लेकर आ रहे इतनी जल्दी।
थैंक यू।
मेरा नाम सुमित है। मेरा नाम सुमित है।
आप लोग कर लीजिए फिर।
देखिए, तेल अवीव में नॉर्मल है माहौल, लेकिन दक्षिणी इजराइल और उत्तरी इजराइल में काफी वहां पर भीषण युद्ध होने की संभावना है और इसलिए हम वापस आ गए हैं। हाँ?
सर, आप कहाँ पर थे?
मैं तेल अवीव में था। तेल अवीव में सिचुएशन बिल्कुल नॉर्मल है।
और गवर्नमेंट ने आपको बुलाया है, क्या कहना चाहिए?
गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत अच्छा काम किया है, बहुत फास्ट इन्होंने रिस्पांस दिया है 2-3 दिन के अंदर अंदर। ठीक है।
בתים התפוצצו כתוצאה מהלחימה, אבל זה גם כבר, זה כבר לחימה פתח. אנחנו כמות מצורפת של תחמושת, ואחריהם גל נוסף של חמושים שרצים ברגל, שזה לוחמי ספר, לא נוח'בה ולא הכל, כשהם שוכבים, יהיו מחבלים באותו מקום. חברי קריית כהנו, את המחבלים, 10 הרוגים פה, 3 הרוגים פה.
אז אני מבקש ממך לא לסיים עד שאנחנו לא מוצאים פתרון לביטחון שלנו. תודה.
קוראים לך?
ארז.
תודה.
תודה.
למרוק, למוכנים. למוכנים. מוכנים כולם? כן.
10 p.m., a barrage of rockets was fired by Hamas to Israel. Then, at 6:59 p.m., a barrage of around 10 rockets was fired by Islamic Jihad from a nearby cemetery. It was at the time that 6:59 p.m. when there were reports of an explosion at the Al-Hali al-Mahadani hospital in Gaza City. According to our intelligence, Hamas checked the reports, understood it was an Islamic Jihad rocket that had misfired, and decided to launch a global media campaign to hide what really happened. They went as far as inflating the numbers of casualties. They understood with absolute certainty that it was a rocket misfired by Islamic Jihad that damaged the hospital. Analysis of our aerial footage confirms that there was no direct hit to the hospital itself. The only location damage is outside the hospital in the parking lot, where we can see signs of burning, which I will show later, no cratering, and no structural damage to nearby buildings, as opposed to the damage caused by any aerial munition which would have been of different nature. We would have seen craters and structural damage to the buildings, both of which haven't been identified in this incident. The size of the damage we see here is due to the warhead of the Islamic Jihad rocket, but most of the rocket's propellant is still evident due to the short flight of the rocket because the launch failed. The following visual evidence shows infrared imagery of the parking lot. You can see the central locations of fires, some debris of rooftops, no craters can be identified. I want to show you that. Myself. This is the area of the hospital. Okay? We are showing the parking lot and the hospital. Okay? Those are in red spots. This is not in infrared, so you can understand it better. This is the parking lot.
Can you pick it up?
This is the parking lot. You can see the parking lot also now in this picture shown here. Okay? Aftermath. After the hit. There is no structural damage to the building. The walls stand intact. There are no craters here. All of the above, which I said, no structural damage. The walls stay intact. No craters. These are the characterized that shows that it's not an aerial munition that has hit the parking lot. We also have examples of what air-to-ground munition creator looks like. As you can see, they do not exist in this instance. Many media outlets immediately reported the unverified claims by Hamas. Those were lies spread by Hamas. I want to make something clear. It is impossible to know what happened as quickly as Hamas claimed they knew. That should have been an initial warning sign for many. Unlike Hamas, the IDF launched an immediate examination, which was overseen at the very highest levels of command. This professional review was based on intelligence, operational systems, and aerial footage, all of which we cross-checked. The evidence, which we are sharing with you all, confirms that the explosion of the Al-Hali al-Mahadani hospital in Gaza was caused by an Islamic Jihad rocket that was misfired. Here are the four main parts of the examination process. First, we confirmed that there was no IDF fire by land, sea or air that hit the hospital. Second, our radar system tracked rockets fired by terrorists from within Gaza at the time of the explosion. I will show you. The trajectory analysis from the barrage of rockets confirms that the rockets were fired close proximity to the hospital. In addition, there are two independent videos which show the failure of the rocket launch and the continuation of rocket flight towards the ground within the Gaza Strip, falling in the hospital compound. Third, we have intelligence, some that will be shared here, of communication between terrorists talking about rockets misfiring. The terrorists realize that the rocket has misfired and made specific reference to the Al-Hali al-Ma'dani hospital. I would want to let everybody hear the conversation, and I will do the translation in English. I'm telling you, this is the first time that we see a missile like this falling, and so that's why we are saying it belongs to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. What? They are saying it belongs to the PGI. It's from us? It looks like it. Who says this? They are saying the shrapnel from the missile is local shrapnel and not like Israeli shrapnel. What are you saying, Abu Ammar? But God bless, it couldn't have been found another place, not the hospital, to explode? Never mind, yes, Abu Raji. They shot it from the cemetery behind the hospital. What? They shot it coming from the cemetery behind the Al-Mahadani hospital, and it misfired and fell on them. There's a cemetery behind it? Yes, Al-Mahadani is exactly in the compound. Where is it when you enter the compound? You first enter the compound and don't go towards the city. It's on the right side of Al-Ma'dani hospital. Yes, I know it. We have cross-checked intercept with other intelligence sources to confirm this accuracy. It is common for rockets that are fired at Israel to land short and fall inside Gaza. These rockets fall short of Israel and have caused Palestinian casualties. During this war, we have counted approximately 450 rockets that misfired and fell inside Gaza. Palestinian civilians pay the price. I want to show you the footage. These are failed launches during this war, until now. These are all failed launches that fell inside the Gaza Strip, and some of them, of course, created casualties among the Palestinians themselves. And one of them was in the hospital Al-Hali al-Madani. We are also sharing this information with our partners. First and foremost, the United States. We want the maximum transparency because we take any incident involving civilians very, very seriously. Unfortunately, many in the media immediately reported the statements coming out from Hamas, controlled in Gaza, which blamed Israel. Instead of waiting for the examination of a credible information from the IDF, some media outlets ran with Hamas lies. Some of those headlines are still up, have not been corrected. I understand the desire to break news, but I hope you will all agree the accuracy and credible information comes before speed. The IDF acts in accordance with the international law. In conclusion, this incident shows how allegations, in this case false and baseless allegations made by terrorists against Israel, can spread and flame tension in the region. I will now answer questions.
Jeremy Diamond, CNN.
Hey, I'm Hogari. Jeremy Diamond, CNN. Thank you so much. I'm wondering if you could first explain how an Islamic Jihad rocket could have caused this much death and destruction. And then second of all, I'd also like you to address the question of credibility, because frankly the IDF has a less than perfect track record with the issue of credibility. Among other incidents, the Israeli government initially claimed that it was armed Palestinian militants who killed the journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, which we know is not true. So why should the world trust you now?
Because of the importance of credibility. And in the past, we had ourselves were fast to go to conclusion. This is why in this event we took the time. It took us more than 5 hours. We wanted to double check everything, make sure we're credible. Again, we wanted to double check everything, make sure we're credible, opposed to the other events that you mentioned. Now we'll to answer your first question. I'm saying it again. What I understand the assessment is there were people in the parking lot, probably taking refugees or whatever that came into the parking lot, staying in the parking lot, not inside the hospital itself. This is what we understand. Then, what we understand, because the rocket's flight, due to the rocket flight, it was very, very short, because the launch has failed, the existence of propellant made a larger explosion than the warhead itself. And this caused the damage of explosion that we see of the burning cars here, okay, because of the existence of a large amount of propellant inside. This is the reason all those cars have been burned, and probably the people were in this parking lot.
Just to follow up, one of the difficulties with independently verifying a lot of this information is the fact that journalists are not able to go into Gaza right now.
Okay.
So will you open access for journalists to be able to go into Gaza?
I believe there are journalists now, some journalists now in Gaza, and I can tell you another thing. Hamas has closed the area, is trying to take evidence from the area. The area is now closed. I ask you to send the journalists now in Gaza Street. Go to the hospital, take evidence.
ABC Ian Panel.
Yeah, good morning, thank you. President Biden says he's outraged, and so are millions of people, not just throughout the Middle East, but elsewhere in the world. Whoever was responsible for this, many will still conclude that if you weren't already bombing Gaza with thousands of strikes, there wouldn't have been so many people in the hospital, and this attack would not have happened. In other words, whatever justification, explanation you can put on it, many people are just going to conclude it's Israel's fault.
I will answer, sir. Important question. We have been calling for a couple of days now for the population in Gaza City and its surrounds to go southern from Wadi Gaza, because Hamas is using them as human shield. Hamas tries in every way to keep the population by threatening, by taking car keys and other things, blocking the roads. He wants the population in Gaza City because all the infrastructures of Hamas, the terrorist infrastructures down beneath in the tunnels and in buildings among other innocent civilians, and also in sensitive locations like nearby hospitals and in mosques, etc., etc. All of this logic is based that the population will be a human shield. This is why he's so freaked out when people are moving thousands to Gaza, to Wadi Gaza. We encourage the population to do so because we put more effort in Gaza City, because Hamas control system is mostly in Gaza City. That is the main reason. We carried out our attacks because we were massacred on Saturday. We did not do an initial attack on Gaza. We had a massacre on Israel, an historical massacre which the world haven't seen. It's a Hamas-ISIS massacre in a huge scale. We didn't start. We have to fight. We have to fight. This is the reason we're fighting. We're trying to minimize the casualty of the population. We're encouraging to go southern to Wadi Gaza when we can provide as much a secure area for the population. We keep on encouraging them to do so.
Just a brief follow-up. You've already encouraged people to move south, and unfortunately it's proved that that hasn't been safe either. The bombing has continued in places like Khan Yunis and towards Rafah, where people are being encouraged to go. And just finally, how does this alter your plans for a ground operation? It has to be a consideration, no?
We are now going to share in these following hours an area of a safe zone for the Gazan that went southern to Wadi Gaza. And we are trying to create the conditions and the corridors. Yes, we do attack in different areas. But when we attack by intelligence. We try to minimize the population in those areas before we attack. That's the logic. And about the next stages of the war, I will not talk about here of the next stages of the war.
BBC, Jeremy Bowen.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Do you think that the governments that condemned Israel last night will believe your explanation? I'm referring to Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates.
I think all of the countries that you mentioned are watching the BBC carefully and looking carefully what the BBC said. And I hope after our aftermath that shows it was cross-checked and we took the time because we didn't want to be non-reliable and we didn't want us to infect with our credibility. I hope the BBC will now share this investigation and those countries will listen to the BBC, and we will also share United States a more intimate and also United Kingdom a more intimate review so the BBC can show it. And those countries, those Arab countries that you mentioned, which is very important for Israel, of course from the Abraham Accords and other countries who also would be threatened by Hamas ISIS ideology, should understand our war. What Hamas ISIS did on the massacre on Saturday is nothing to do with Islam. People killed babies, people killed families, women were raped, people were beheaded. This is against Islam. This is against Islam. Any Arab country will show me a fatwa that goes with Islam. This is against Islam. Hamas is ISIS. It's not a one terror activity. It's a scale massacre of the governance of the Gaza city, of Gaza, which is Hamas. Hamas made a scale massacre, which is a governance, it's the sovereign. It's a sovereign massacre. This is why Hamas, ISIS, we must fight it.
If I just follow up on that, I mean, you're essentially saying that these Arab governments watch the BBC and made up their minds. They came out with their statements long before I filed. So, I mean, I'm impressed you think we have so much clout in the world, but to be honest, they have their own sources of information, which is why they moved. Those statements came from the highest level, foreign minister and above.
I guess in the first time, because people feel empathy with hearing that someone bombed an hospital, or when they see people are dying. So they go out and do statements. It's okay, and I'm not blaming.
So they're being emotional, you say?
I think, and it sounds reasonable. But now, after evidence being shown, and I think it serves Hamas. Hamas is a terror like ISIS. It's media and sword. He wants to go to the media. He wants to be viral. That creates a viral imagery. So, after the conversation you heard when they say it's Islamic Jihad, he said, okay, now we're going to take the benefit out of it and we're going to show the world. And they know it's going to be viral. So I'm not blaming anybody for showing it. I'm just trying to now fix it. Because we were blamed before that when we're too speed and two, that we're asking, are you credible? We're taking the time to be credible. Sometimes the speed defects it.
Patrick Kingsley, New York Times.
Thanks, Admiral. I have some technical questions. In your footage that you released last night, some of that footage was filmed by Al Jazeera. Our team assessed that footage, and at least one of the munitions appears to be traveling a different direction to the one that you assess in your map. It's traveling northwesterly, not northeasterly, as your map suggests. Second of all, did the IDF fire any Iron Dome interceptors or artillery munitions at 6:59 p.m. From Israel into Gaza? Thirdly, can you share the intercepted audio of the Hamas members that you just played? I think that would be important for our assessment.
A lot of questions, Patrick.
I know, but we haven't got much time. hospital officials said that smaller strikes targeted the hospital on Saturday, and that they were warned by phone by Israeli officials to vacate the hospital. Do you have any response to that? And finally, is there any evidence of secondary explosions?
Okay. Let's start with the first thing. Iron Dome, we do not intercept inside Gaza. Okay? Iron Dome, we do not intercept inside Gaza. This is not an Iron Dome. Iron Dome is used for preventing the rockets to being hit in Israel. That's the first question. Second question, those independent videos which we showed of the failure that you mentioned are not only the forced element of the check. It's not, we didn't base our facts on those independent videos, it's extra. So I hear what the New York Times says, and it's extra. And the reports that you mentioned about telling the hospital to be evacuated earlier days before, I will check it. I do not know the answer. I don't want to give you an answer which is incorrect. And you asked about the secondary explosion in the parking lot. What we see here in the picture, and this is the most important thing. Aerial munition doesn't look like that. Aerial munition of Israel would have caused intact to the walls. It would have caused a crater. Okay? And it makes completely logic, as much as we know, that most of this damage was done due to the propellant existence, not just the warhead, because of the short range, because the launches failed.
To be clear, so the propellant caught fire after landing?
Yeah, because those rockets should have been gone far away to Israel, so you have a large existence of propellant.
Sky News, Deborah Haynes.
Thank you very much. I have two questions, please. You said that you believe that the number of casualties has been inflated. Can you give an assessment of what you believe that number of dead and wounded to be? And secondly, regardless how credible the evidence is that you show that this explosion was not caused by an Israeli munition, your enemies are going to still blame Israel, and it's the fact that many Palestinian civilians have been killed since this military operation began. Are you losing the information war? And given how important that is there a potential to maybe change tack? You said this is going to be, well, officials have said it's going to be a long war. Are you not losing it by using so much military power on Gaza Strip while there are civilians there?
Okay. We tried to answer the second question before that because I think it's important. The information war is a hard war. It's a hard enemy to win, because this enemy has built his logic very, very wisely, using the population as a human shield. Hamas pictured himself in the world as a charity organization, donating money for the poor Gazan of Hamas. While we see all the money that came to Hamas, most of it goes to tunnels, goes to this scale massacred operation, all the donations from many countries in the world, including Europe. Secondly, we've seen, and also UNRWA had verified it, that Hamas is stealing gasoline, food, and also we found in Israel during the massacre the kits of the medical kits were UNRWA kits used by the terrorists. We are fighting something that is hard to explain. He's using the donation that you send, he's using the UNRWA possessions that are meant to go to the poor Gazan, those poor Palestinians that were hijacked by Hamas, and he's using it. He took all the gasoline that could have helped for desalination inside the Gaza for 6 days. It could have gone gas for hospitals. He took it to his own infrastructure, military infrastructure, the terror infrastructures that need this gas. This is who we're fighting against. This is who we're fighting against. And we have to win this information war with evidence, not with false, uncredible statements. We have to win it with evidence. We have no other way. We must stay moral. We must play according to the international law. We have no other way. Otherwise, we won't be a democrat liberal country. And this is what we're fighting. It's a democrat liberal country fighting any Hamas, ISIS control Gazan area with innocent civilians, Palestinians, that is using them as a human shield. That is the event. That is the event we're fighting. We have to fight. We cannot live next to our borders with Hamas, ISIS governments that will threaten our civilians and do massacre where you rape women, beheaded bodies, kidnap babies. Do you understand that while we speak, babies are being held in Gaza? Women, young girls that went to a music festival are being held in Gaza. Dead bodies are being held in Gaza. Old people, some of them were in the Holocaust, are held now in Gaza. How come you take old people? How come you take babies? How do you kidnap this kind of more than almost 200 people have been kidnapped? How do you do this? Some of them are foreigners. This is what we're fighting. And now they're going to show videos of those hijacks. They want to terrorize the family. We will not be terrorized. We have our values. We know what we're fighting for. We know what we're fighting for. We're fighting for our country. We're fighting to be, with our values, a moral country that is a democrat, liberal, Jewish country. This is who we are. We're going to stay here like that.
Yeah, but exactly, you suffered this atrocity. You said it yourself, there are Israeli hostages, babies in Gaza, and yet you're still struggling with the information war because Palestinian civilians are being killed in Israeli bombardment. But isn't it time to, is there another way? That's what I'm asking. And can you just answer that question about your assessment on the casualties, please? You say it was inflated.
The casualties inflation we understand from intelligence, and I will not. We will share it with the government, and I don't want to say the numbers here. And this is not another round in Gaza. This is not that. It's something else. We understand that the mask have fallen down. We are living next to ISIS governing Hamas state. We cannot live like that. In the world, it's a world problem, not just Israeli problem. It's a world problem. This can shift away, exactly like ISIS. It can shift away to Arab countries. It can shift away everywhere. I would say cynically that the Gazans should ask Yahya Sinwar, Muhammad Deif, Salah El-Aruri, Marwan Issa, why is it happening to them? And if other countries in the world can make Hamas surrender with no conditions and bring our hijacks back to Israel, show us the way you do that. Show us the way you do that. And we will do that. We understand we have no other way to fight that the way we're fighting.
Andrew Pfeffer, The Times.
I understand this has already been passed on to the Americans and to other Western allies. Were the Americans involved in the examination debriefing process? And did they at any point provide you with the satellite footage that they have of the area?
No, we used only our systems, Anshu, and we will provide all this information today to the Americans and not just the Americans.
And did you get any known corroboration from any other source outside and the independent video?
We are credible with our information, with our intelligence, with our system. The intelligence is credible all along the intelligence community in the world with the Five Eyes, etc. This would be very, very credible information that any country will rely on. And of course, our footage, imagery, the Air Force way to review things is very, very credible in the world. And those things will show credible to any liberal democracy.
Washington Post, Shira.
Hi, so thank you for this. I have a technical question about the intelligence you got. You said there were people speaking who said the rocket was launched from near Madani to Al-Ahli. So how far were those two locations? That's one. Number two is, what is the rationale of calling the south the safe zone if there are still Hamas operatives there? To what extent is the north the central target right now, and the south at what point? What is the difference between the north and the south in the campaign? Number two, and number three. You are absolutely right. That money has been funneled from Hamas social organizations to military ones. But is it, is Israel's goal to take out Hamas completely? Does that mean any military leaders? Does that mean people who are involved in the social services program? How extensive is that? And if that is everyone, does that not just mean that Hamas, is there really a difference between Hamas and Gaza in that sense?
And we'll start with the last question. I think it's the most important one. There is a completely difference between the Gazan Palestinians and Hamas as a sovereign. It wasn't like that all years. Everybody knows that. It's a completely different thing. And most of the Gazan Palestinians are not Hamas as a sovereign military and politically. But we must take the sovereign, the government, down. That's for your first question. Then you asked about in the beginning about the intelligence. We understand there is a cemetery nearby, the Al-Hali Al-Mahdani Hospital, and they probably fired from the cemetery, as they mentioned themselves in the conversation. And they also refer to an Islamic Jihad failure, which they are using as a propaganda against Israel. And if you can remind me the other question you asked?
The logic of considering the South as safe zone,
okay.
Hamas is still there.
You're right that Hamas is all along Gaza, but most of its military infrastructure and governing infrastructure are in Gaza City and its area. This is why we're asking to go south to Wadi Gaza, okay? And that is, it's not for, it's until we finish what we need to finish in this area where it has a governing and military and terrorizing from this area of Gaza City and its peripheral to Israel. But yes, we will attack in all Gaza by intelligence, and we will attack by international law, and before that it will be based on intelligence, and which we will try always to minimize the casualties of civilians.
AFP Patrick.
Yes, Patrick Canibar with Agence France Presse. This very serious incident just occurred in the hospital. Do you think it will delay or prevent you to launch a ground operation inside Gaza if it's actually what you're planning to?
This is a very serious incident because civilians were casualties. This is why we take it seriously. This is why we took our time to be credible. Again, this is why we took our time to be credible, and we didn't jump into statements. So we take it very, very seriously, and I think the world should hold up Islamic Jihad, and everybody knows who's funding Islamic Jihad. Islamic Jihad is 100% funded by Iran. The rockets of Islamic Jihad are funded by Iran. I repeat it. Iran funds Hamas, but it does 100% for Islamic Jihad. Islamic Jihad caused the casualties in the hospital, in Al-Hali Al-Ma'adani Hospital. The casualties are by Islamic Jihad. The rocket is being funded or delivered from Iran. Iran caused this death in Al-Hali Al-Ma'adani Hospital in the end of the day.
Just a follow-up question.
The stages of the war, I will not talk about them here.
Just a follow-up question. How are you planning to differentiate the population with the Hamas guys inside Gaza, knowing, as you are saying, that they are using the population as human shields? Isn't it an impossible task?
I think for us, during our 75 years here in this region, before we came here, we were in other places. Some of the Israelis were here for long, long years ago. But we are used to impossible missions, and we understand it's a complex mission because Hamas has hijacked, not just our hijacked Israelis, babies, women, old women, and others. He hijacked the Gazan population. He hijacked them. They could have been prospered. You know that Israel brings in Gazan workers by thousands. They bring in Gazan workers to make economy in Gaza better. We bring them in to make it more prosperous. That money goes, some of it goes to Hamas, and then Hamas executes it. He doesn't want Gaza prosperous. He doesn't care about economy. He cares about jihad. And I don't know if even jihad, anybody in Islam can explain this event. The Islamic world, Islam can explain what we're seeing here. Kidnapping babies, raping women, beheading people by government scale country operation, massacre.
Jerusalem Post, Yonah Bob.
Is there a risk
from the classified intelligence that you just exposed of sources and methods. You played a singles intelligence conversation of Islamic Jihad for the general public shortly after it happened. They can see the transcript. They can see which phones you were tapping. Was there a debate about whether or not to expose the singles intelligence to the public?
We have to be credible here. We take our own risks. This is what I have to say.
I-24, Robert.
Good morning. You discussed the fact that you have shared intelligence with the US and with the UK. What other countries have you shared intelligence with?
I want to be accurate. We are going to share more intelligence than I've shared here with our friends. First of all, United States, then other countries in Europe. We're going to share it. Okay, this is what I said. I want to be accurate.
And can you tell me which other countries you intend to do this with? And will there be any of your neighbors in the Middle East that you intend to share that intelligence with them?
It will be a decision of the government, and I'm sure we're going to make the right decision in order to make everybody clear who is to blame.
Michael Hauser Tov, Haaretz.
One question for the Israeli audience, please. תודות טל, ברשותך. כבר ראינו פחות או יותר בסרט הזה במהלך השנה שעברה, אוגוסט 2022, כאשר רקטה פגעה בבית בג'באליה, ו4 ילדים. גם אז לקח לצה"ל כמה שעות להוציא את התגובה, שזה בעצם שיגור של הג'יהאד. נראה שלא למדנו שום לקח, וזה חזר לנו גם עכשיו. איך אתה מסביר את פער השעות עד שלקח לכם להוציא איזושהי תגובה ראשונית לכל האירוע הזה?
We have to be, the question was how did we not learn? We had an event like that a couple of years ago in Jabalia. It took us a couple of hours, and then the world and the media it caused the damage to Israel. We have to be credible. You mentioned Shireen Abu Akleh, you mentioned other. We have to be credible. This is our lesson learned. We have to be credible with the world. We have to be credible with the media. We're a country, a liberal democracy. It means that the freedom of press and being credible to the press is an essence to Israel. It will take us time, and it did take us time yesterday, because it's not Jabalia, it's a hospital, it's in a larger scale. We had to be accurate and double check, and now come and show you the evidence.
Henry Meyer, Bloomberg.
Yes, hello, Admiral. I have a question regarding the potential ground offensive. I understood from your answer that that is still planned. Has the US advised in any way to try and delay this operation?
I'm here to talk about the event of the hospital Al Ali al-Mahadani, but the war, the target of the war is to take out Hamas, ISIS, governance, sovereignty, terror sovereignty out. We will use all the measures we need if the time comes, in the right time, to do them.
Neri Zilber.
Last question. Neri Zilber, Financial Times. Last night, in the videos that you provided, the before and after of the parking lot in the hospital, and also in the post-explosion image here, we don't see any people, we don't see any bodies. How do you explain that?
Because we are trying to be careful, because we haven't seen also the evacuation of the body, and I don't know the number of the casualties, and maybe they're inflating according to our intelligence, so we have to be accurate. But you can see, and I guess it might be true, that people were thinking that the parking lot is a safe zone. But unfortunately, Islamic Jihad failed rocket failed in this parking lot. This might have caused this event of casualties, as you mentioned.
It's not my job when the Hamas is retaliating. Our job is to collect all the body parts and to respect the life and the death. That's our job in our organization. It's called Zaka. And this is, in Hebrew, Ziui Korbanot Ason. It's identifying unnatural death. That's our job. And we do this by every terror attack or natural disasters. We go out and we do this, and there's no different by gender or by nationality. We do it for everybody, because everybody's a human person created by God, and we have to respect them and the families. So we do this all over. Now we were called into the job because the tragedy that happened in Israel was about I can't say exactly, but let's say about 1,500 people. They were died and they were murdered and killed and tortured, and it's a massacre. What they did, and we are here all over to make sure that everybody is being respected, and everybody's being respected, gets the full respect, and because of that, we are here.
How many bodies you have collected?
We've collected about 700 bodies since Saturday afternoon.
From several countries?
Oh, not countries, cities and places, nationalities. We don't look. We have everything. Whoever we see a body, and even though the terrorists, we also collected.
You have attended and you visited India.
It was a visit that wasn't a planned visit to India when I was there, but it was a terror attack when we came. And a terror attack is always, it's same terror, same evil, and we had very good relationship with the Indian authorities, with the Indian police, even though they were very afraid of us, because when we arrived there was still going gunfire around us, but thank God we went out live with no harms, and with all the help, yes, we took it. We took all the bodies that we were supposed to take.
How many bodies then you collected from the Mumbai?
I think 7.
What's your message to the Hamas people?
This should be the only message, that they shouldn't be existed anymore. That's the only. I have a message to the Arab people. The Arab people in the world should condemn them like ISIS, because they're worse than ISIS and they're like ISIS, and they don't belong to the Arab nation. We have friends, the Arab nation. We have workers in the Arab nation, Muslims, Christians, everybody. They don't belong. They will never do that what they did.
ראיתי, אתה ראיתי. Jewish people, and there is a long and proud and wonderful history of many Jews around the world being part of our movement for a free Palestine. And we'll be hearing today from two speakers from the Jewish community to reinforce that point. These are people who are not new to our movement. These are people who have been protesting for decades for a free Palestine. So we have to be clear today. As I said, even if we do everything absolutely 100% perfectly, the media will denounce us as anti-Semites anyway. We know that's true. However, it obviously does not help that on the Monday night protest we held after our rally, a tiny, tiny group of people did actually chant anti-Semitic slogans. So we have to be totally clear that today and for every future protest, none of that will ever happen again. And if anyone even begins to chant such slogans, everyone around them must and will tell them to shut up. That this is not what we're about. Doing that is not only wrong and racist in its own right, as we know, it massively harms the Palestinian cause for people to do that. It gives the media, who want to denounce us anyway, a free kick, which we definitely do not want to give them. Anyone who is a true supporter of Palestine would never make such a chant. Okay. On another vein, we know the media and the police and the government are looking for any excuse to try to crack down on our right to protest. So that's another thing we need to be very clear on today. Today we must be disciplined, we must be very peaceful, and that's true even if people try to provoke us, and we can't rule that out. That there will be people today who try to cause trouble, who try to, pretend they're part of our protest while here to cause trouble, or people who come from outside trying to provoke us. We need to be very clear, we need to be very calm, we need to ignore them, we need to be disciplined, because we need to fight and to continue to demand our right to protest in this state. And on that front, we have already lodged the paperwork to say that next Saturday, the 21st of October, we are going to be holding another protest at Town Hall. And we are going to be marching on our streets. As is our basic democratic right. Now, what happens today will partly determine how the courts and the government look upon that. So again, it's why we need to be extra disciplined today, so that we have an extra basis to fight for our right to protest next week. Whatever happens, we will protest next week, let me be clear. We will not stop. But we don't want to give them a free kick or any extra ammunition. Okay, so thank you for that, and I know everyone here understands exactly what that's all about. So we need to be disciplined, we need to make sure everyone around us is doing the same, so that we can continue to fight forever for a free Palestine. And on that note, I'll introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Fahad Ali. He's a Palestinian, he's an academic, he's a long-running activist for a free Palestine, and he's going to talk to you more now.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fahad Ali. I'm a Palestinian. My grandparents were ethnically cleansed in 1948 in what we call the Nakba, the foundational genocide of the Palestinian people, in which more than 700,000 Palestinians were forced off our lands by the state of Israel during its formation, aided and abetted by the rest of the world. And now we see the consequence of that catastrophe. 75 years of dispossession, 75 years of occupation. For 75 years, the Palestinian people have had no justice. Palestinians have said for decades, we've protested, we've gone out onto the streets, we've called for the international community to intervene. We've tried to shine a light on the horrors that are inflicted upon us. For decades, these horrors have been inflicted upon us. This did not start on the weekend. This has been ongoing for 7 decades. And what did the world do? What did the world do when faced with images of the apartheid brutality in the West Bank? Gaza has been under blockade for 16 years. What did the world do in years past? What did the world do in years past when after every single war on Gaza, the asymmetric death toll left Palestinians dead in the thousands? And now, we have warned, and we had warned over several years, that this state of affairs could not be maintained indefinitely. Unless Palestinians were granted freedom, unless we were liberated, unless we had rights to life and liberty, unless we had that, violence would be the obvious consequence, because you cannot keep a people locked up, chained, subject to brutality and occupation and the indignity of the military violence that Israel subjugates us with every single day, and not expect that to somehow come crashing down. But what did the world do? The world has turned a blind eye, and when major human rights organizations, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, even Israeli human rights organizations calling what was happening in Palestine apartheid, what did our foreign minister say? I don't think that's a very helpful thing to say, she said. And this is what we're getting.
Same situation is this, that every house needs to be
So people that are not our family.
What is written?
It's written, let's say, evacuated. Okay, it means that it says zuka. Zuka, it's to bring back something that you owned. Okay, but let's say evacuated. It's like the not exactly, but.
Just please don't get inside. It's not our houses. We don't want to see people seeing their house for the first time on the.
אבל כבר אין פה גופות.
what's your comment on Hamas terrorists, the way brutality they have shown towards Israeli nationals?
Terrible people. Terrible. The worst. Really the worst. Devil's people. We are speechless.
Do you think that the way sirens goes on in the Tel Aviv, in the center of Tel Aviv in Israel, do you think that the threat is continuing in this country?
I don't understand you.
The threat is still in this country.
Yes.
They are attacking.
Of course. The Tilim will come more and more and more. Until the end. They have the power. Sorry, but that's the point. We know from our experience. But we are looking forward. Optimistic, without reason.
Do you think that this war should stop?
If it stops, should be more considerable. Because we have a government that should be gone before we start doing bad things. Wars are terrible anyway.
IDF has announced they will invade on Gaza.
They announced, but they don't stop because they have some stops, whatever, barriers, different considerations. It's not easy, it's not simple. And we don't like war. I was born in this country, before the country was born. And what happened now is exceptional. Never happened. But we blame the Hamas, but we also blame our government. Because they didn't listen. We were protesting for 10 months and nothing moved, nothing changed. And now we have the punishment. Big penalty. Very sad. Every one of us knows someone, has relatives, friends. It's many people. And this is a small country. So.
What's your name, ma'am?
Pardon?
Your name?
Neely.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Bye. Thanks to Indian people.
Where are you from?
India.
At home. But I, for example, and Neely, for example, we go every day to the beach, we swim. And we say, okay, hope everything will be okay. Tel Aviv is safer than other places in the south and the north. And I don't know.
Do you think that the people are coming less to the beach?
Yeah, less. And also in the street in Tel Aviv, you don't see people. Like some coffee shops are open, but people are really stayed at home. They are safer at home. Yeah.
So do you think that this one happened because of the threat of Hamas and government has also?
Of course, people are very afraid. Like the missiles, you don't know where it's going to fall. It's like, it's very scary, very scary.
What's your name, ma'am?
Raya.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Stay safe.
Yeah.
I'd like to focus on the current situation. During the night, there were rockets fired at Tel Aviv and southern Israel. There is still combat in and around the northern part of the Gaza Strip, and the IDF continues to operate above the Gaza Strip and to attack different military targets belonging to Hamas. Now, we have called on the civilian population, and this isn't news, we have called on the civilian population in Gaza City and the northern part of the Gaza Strip to evacuate south of the Gaza River. And that isn't news. But what is news is that Hamas has both issued warnings to their civilians not to evacuate, and when people didn't listen to those warnings of Hamas, they have actually stopped civilians and they have stopped convoys of Gazan civilians trying to flee from the situation and listening to our warnings, knowing that they are much better off south of the Gaza River than staying in the northern part. There's a picture here on this side where you can see an aerial footage of two vehicles, these two vehicles here, that's a zoom in, and this is the same two vehicles, and you can see the line of civilian vehicles trying to go from north to south, being blocked by two other vehicles. And that corresponds with intelligence and information we have from various sources that Hamas is indeed actively preventing civilians from leaving the south. Now, if that isn't the most sinister and vile use of civilians during war, I don't know what is, but it again goes to show the lack of any value for human life with the terrorist organization Hamas. Now, there have been reports of a convoy or vehicles of Gazans that were going from north to south on Salahuddin Road, which is the main street in the Gaza Strip. Here it goes from north to south, and there were reports of Gazan casualties. Now, I'd like to say something about reports coming out of the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip, there aren't two governments there. There's one government. The government is Hamas. So when the so-called Gaza Ministry of Health issues information, the amount of people killed, if they were armed people or not, if they were men or women or children, obviously that information is authorized by Hamas. And it's okay for release by Hamas, and it would serve the purposes of Hamas. So when you get information, if you're a journalist, or if you're just listening to what's going on, and you get information from the Gaza Strip, please be very, very skeptical of the veracity, and ask yourself, why was this information disseminated, and how does it serve Hamas and its propaganda purposes? And I'd like to show you something. This is footage made by local Gazans of that incident. And you see the explosion there? We're going to zoom in. You know what? We're going to show it again, just so you can see it better. Vehicles traveling, some guy is filming, and then all of a sudden, a big explosion. Now, you can't see it now, but we've zoomed in. Actually, we haven't. People who know how to do it around the world, forensic analysis and other people, visual imagery experts, they've zoomed in and they've enlarged the area of the explosion. That's one of those pictures. And here's another picture, a little bit zoomed out, of the same very incident. They've basically isolated the frames and looked and wanted to understand where the explosion started and what it looks like. Now, I'm no forensic expert. I wouldn't be able to say if this is a roadside IED or if this is a strike from above. But what I am able to say with confidence, because we have asked, is that the IDF did not purposely strike in that area. There was no targeting of vehicles, there was no targeting of civilians, specifically because we want we don't target civilians anyhow, but specifically because we wanted people to go south. So it makes no sense for the IDF to have done it. Who would want to stop those same civilians? The same organization that did the roadblocks, Hamas. Now, again, this isn't conclusive. What is conclusive is that we for sure didn't strike on purpose. It may have been some kind of a freak accident, which I doubt, but I think that this visual imagery, and by the way, both BBC and other media outlets and many on Twitter have looked at this and analyzed it, and there are questions about what happened here and how that explosion occurred. And again, any information coming out of the Gaza Strip authorized by Hamas should be treated with extreme caution and suspicion because it serves their propaganda purposes. We are deployed, and with this I will conclude our briefing, we are deployed along the Gaza Strip with our ground forces, and we are preparing ourselves for the next stage of operations. We again call on the people of northern Gaza, Gaza City, and all the northern environment in this area here to go south, listen to our warnings. We are saying that there's going to be significant military activities here, and we urge the civilians to evacuate for their own safety. And I think it is appalling that Hamas isn't letting people to evacuate. Let that sink in, and again, in the bigger picture of things, who is on the right side, who is trying to do the right thing, and who is cynically using civilians and civilian infrastructure time and again for their vile purposes. We are trying to do the right thing, and the next stage of operations will be enhanced operations against Hamas until we will dismantle Hamas and its military capabilities. If you like it, share it, stay connected to our outlets, and I wish you all the best. Thanks for watching.
कोशिश करे जुल्म और जालिम के खिलाफ आवाज खड़ा करके शायद हमें खुदा नुसरत ने कामयाबी ने जो आइंदा हमारे नस्ल बच जाएगी वो अपनी नुसरत का इजहार करे, अपनी सरजमीन पे अच्छी तरह जिंदगी बसर करे। ये हर इंसान और इंसानियत के लिए है, हर किसी मसलक और मसलक से मुराद हो। ये इंसानियत किसी पे जब भी जुल्म हो जाएगा तो उसका इंसानियत का अपना कोशिश तलाश की पसंद किया है। आज इस बार ये फिर से उठे इस अमर पदक को
muito é isso lá, FM. Vai.
खाना पीना सब कुछ बंद किया और इतना ही नहीं शोर भी बंद नहीं हो रहा है। वहाँ से हमले ज्यादा होते जा रहे हैं, निहत्थे बच्चों को मार रहे हैं, बूढ़ों को मार रहे हैं, घरों को में इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं। मगर मीडिया पे फैला है यही हम पे जुल्म करे, यह दहशतगर्द है, यही हम फिलिस्तीन इसराइल पे हमला करते हैं और जितने भी अबर कुदरत है वो इनके साथ है। मैं मरहबा उनको इन फिलिस्तीन की मुजाहिदीन को मरहबा करता हूँ और इन तमाम आवाम की तरफ से, और उनको भी मरहबा करता हूँ जो इनके मज़लूम के हामी है। उनको नुसरत अता करे परवरदिगार आलम, और हो फिलिस्तीन के मुजाहिदीन को और तमाम आलम के जो हामी मुस्तज़फ़ीन है उन पर भी दरूद हो, लानत हो उबर कुदरत को, जालिम पे, इस्राइल पे, और जो भी इनके हामी है उन पे
इस्राइल की दहशतगर्द, इस्राइल की दहशतगर्द। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह रब्बिल आलमीन।
कैसे बात करेगा साइकिल गोया
आला तय्यबीन अत्ताहिरीन अल-हुदात अल-महदीयीन।
भाई करो भाई
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अल्लज़ीना क़ालू रब्बुनल्लाह सुम्मा इस्तक़ामू
Close, Papa, get some needed. Close, Papa, can you?
मोमिनीन, आप बखूबी जानते हैं पिछले एक हफ्ते से मजलूम फलस्तीन पर सवाल करते हैं कि मैं क्यों अपनी जमीन, मैं क्यों अपना घर छोड़ूं। ये दुनिया को नागवार गुजर रहा है और दुनिया डिसइंफॉर्मेशन लैब सपोर्टेड बाय प्रेस कह रही है दहशतगर्द। अगर दहशतगर्दी का यही पैमाना करना है, अगर यही क्राइटेरिया है, मैं दुनिया वालों को ये बोलना चाहता हूँ, अगर यही आपका क्राइटेरिया है तो फिर इस्राइल ने जो कांड किए वो क्या है? रिट्रीब्यूशन ऑपरेशन क्या था? फाइबर ऑन ट्रैक ऑपरेशन क्या था? ईबिया मैसेकर क्या था? आई फॉर एन आई, या सबसे बड़ा मैसेकर जो 1948 में बेरूत में हुआ, जो शबरा शेतीला के नाम से मैसेकर जाना जाता है, जिसमें लाखों फलस्तीनी, अरब, ईसाई शहीद, वो क्या है? क्राइटेरिया है कि आइडेंटिफाई करना कौन हक पर है, कौन ना हक पर है। ये ऑपरेशन क्या है? मकसद यही है।
क्यों नहीं मिठाई ओपन पाना खीरी ओपन पाना राजी पर ओपन पाना है पर योकुन योकुन क्लास बरादर या पर
bloodshed that is taking place and the innocent civilians being harmed in this particular conflict that is raging between Palestine and Israel. Many of them are raising statements against Israel and America and saying that there is a need to protect all those who are in Gaza and are being bombarded continuously. Remember, they were expecting the today, and that's why you can see, many of them protesting against the bombardment of Gaza. There's no Palestinian slogans and marching because area. There are also
फलस्तीन के मुजाहिदों, हम तुम्हारे साथ हैं। फलस्तीन के मुजाहिदों, हम तुम्हारे साथ हैं।
बड़ी उठी है ना बड़ी उठी है फ्रेंड
ईरान और सऊदी अरेबिया पर। ये बात कहना चाहता हूँ आपकी तरफ, हमें खुशी दी।
प्रॉब्लम थी हमारे से कसं पाहिजे आता जबरदस्त हे कोण नुसता काय माहिती पाहिजे या गोष्टी दिला आहे ना करून ना बांग्लादेश Iniziato era cara, mi sarà più cara sul
United Nations ने in favor of Palestine state pass किए हैं 338 और 3 रेजोल्यूशन। मैं उन ममालिक को भी जोर देना चाह रहा हूँ, समझते हैं
कसं पाहिजे कराने मला
हल कौन सा मसला? फलस्तीन सिर्फ और सिर्फ फलस्तीनियों का है और कोई हल नहीं। मैं तवक्का कर रहा हूँ जैसे कि कल खारजा दफ्तर से
इरशाद
पॉलिसी बता रही कल के इस बयाने को जो कल वजारत खारजा ने जारी किया, इसमें उन्हें रिटेरिएट किया कि हम जो हमारी पॉलिसी बिगिनिंग 1948 से लेकर मैं उनसे भी ये गुजारिश करूंगा, मैं हिंदुस्तान के वज़ीर खारजा से भी गुजारिश करूंगा फलस्तीनियों को अपना हक दे। आज जब हम कॉरिडोर्स की बात कर रहे हैं, मिडल ईस्ट कॉरिडोर की बात कर रहे हैं या दीगर तरक्की की बात कर रहे हैं, जियो स्ट्रेटेजिक की बात कर रहे हैं, अगर मैं उनसे कहना चाहता हूँ तमाम ममालिक से, जब ह्यूमैनिटी नहीं रहेगी तो एक आपको जब इंसानियत रहेगी तभी जियो स्ट्रेटेजी रहेगी, जियो पॉलिटिक्स रहेगी, जियो इकोनॉमिक्स रहेगी। मैं सबसे यही गुजारिश करूँगा, तमाम आलमी इंसानियत से, इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी से मैं गुजारिश करूँगा कि वो अपने ऑफिस का इस्तेमाल करें, अपनी जिम्मेदारी समझ लें और फलस्तीनियों को अपना हक मैं ये भी रिकॉर्ड में लाना चाहता हूँ दुनिया क्यों ना हो, सिर्फ भाई क्यों ना हो, और इसकी तस्लीम शुदा क़यादत हमेशा देते आ रहे हैं और देते रहेंगे। अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
इन्हें एक दिवस में उनको कराएंगे यार। यहाँ समझो तो करें उसको लाइव
ये सर्वर 12 में बंद कर दो लाइव बंद नहीं करना है ठीक है ठीक है जी अभी तो यहाँ पे है ही नहीं कुछ चलो ठीक है अच्छा ये चीता
वेलकम ये लोग इसी के बहाने आए हो भाई Happy to be back. Where in Nagaland? Happy to be here. Yes. I should have said mushroom.
That couple of reasons. One, of course, is that fear that something might hit them. Although, after having been taken by surprise, I think Israel has gathered its things in a more orderly manner now. However, with the universities being closed, general atmosphere of fear and preparations that are going on their side in Israel, I think our people also feel that they should not unnecessarily become burdened out there and come back home and go back when things pan out in a better manner. So this is the fourth one. We are there's another flight which will come tomorrow, and we will keep running the flights till the time all the people who are registered are taken out.
Sir, what do you say about how this Operation Ajay is being carried out, the way it is being planned out?
The very fact that a lot of people didn't know, this operation is actually doing very well. It is seamless, it is well organized, and I would like to convey compliments to our Ministry of External Affairs, but because now everything is, everybody knows what is to be done. So whenever an emergency comes up, the whole procedure starts working. And one thing that certainly has happened after 2014 under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, he has given a very clear message to the country, confidence to the countrymen that wherever they are in the world, if something goes wrong, the government will take them out.
Sir, what do you say? What do you have to say to the people who are still in Israel and waiting for the evacuation? There, Indians.
My simple message to them would be: stay where you are, follow the instructions that are being given in the type of emergency situation that exists out there. There is no requirement to panic. If you feel the threat is more, come back. We are here to assist you.
Thank you so much, sir.